World Cup 2010 was what got me into this sport, and I have so many fond memories because of it. And who could ever forget that standalone game with such a banger soundtrack? Although one memory that constantly lives rent-free in my head, like the Jormungand opening, is the Ghanaian national team. Time. Today's sponsor is OneFootball. OneFootball allows you to follow your favorite teams, leagues, and even players. You can get live match scores, alerts, player ratings, and know exactly what's going on with instant up-to-date news. In addition to all these great new features, OneFootball has given us something even better. The app is now offering Indian Super League fans everywhere except in the Indian subcontinent the opportunity to stream all live matches and highlights. But it's not just the Indian Super League, it's also other great major leagues, and it's also for free. To any new friends, the Indian Super League is just about to start, so here's the chance to watch legends like Sunil Khetri. And remember, this is all free, so go down in the description, click that link, download OneFootball for either Apple or Android, because I promise you won't want to miss out. Before the beginning of the new millennium, Ghana had never qualified for a World Cup. This was despite having in their hands African footballing legend Abedi Ayew, or more professionally known by his nickname, Abedi Pele. He was also dubbed the African Maradona. This guy literally had both of the nicknames, that's how popular he was. But after failing to take advantage of their youth in the 90s, Ghana got a second chance in 2001. With the likes of 17-year-old defender John Mensah, 17-year-old Sully Muntari, and 17-year-old Maqwell, the Black Stars impressed in the 2001 FIFA World Youth Championship and finished runners-up. The youngsters of that squad soon became the base of the new Ghanaian golden generation. They made it to the knockouts of the 2002 AFCON, but then failed horribly to qualify for the 2004 edition. However, the young Ghanaians started to blossom when World Cup 2006 qualifiers came around. After kicking off with the loss to Burkina Faso, the Black Stars went unbeaten throughout the rest of the fixtures and qualified for their first ever World Cup. And through the campaign emerged a new star in 19-year-old forward Asamoah Gyan. Ghana drew into a group consisting of the US, Czech Republic, and Italy. They put up a valiant effort against the Italians, but no human being was going to stop this shot. However, the Black Stars bounced back in their next match through an early Gyan goal, and then later on a killer Sully Muntari strike. Ghana continued their winning ways, defeating the US 2-1 to advance out of their group. Their run unfortunately came to an end though when Ronaldo broke the all-time World Cup top scorer record and Brazil piled on 3 goals. 2008 saw the Ghanaians produce a strong run in AFCON, reaching the semis, the furthest they'd ever gone since 1996. In 2009, Ghana breezed past their qualification campaign and became the first African nation to qualify for the 2010 World Cup. The Black Stars that same year won the U20 World Cup as 20-year-old forward Dominic Adia ran riot, winning Golden Boot with 8 goals. He also won Golden Ball, which is rewarded to the best player of the tournament. The 2010 World Cup was an exciting opportunity for this Ghanaian golden generation, as this was the first World Cup to ever be hosted in Africa. And as opposed to 2006, the squad consisted of even more talent, including the aforementioned Dominic Adia, 19-year-old defender Jonathan Mensah, 21-year-old midfielder Kwadwo Asamoah, and 20-year-old winger Andre Ayew. Then there was 23-year-old Asamoah Gyan, who as a teenager had plenty of experience under his helm. Gyan also had a chip on his shoulder after fans threatened his family and insulted his mother due to his poor performances in the 2008 African Cup of Nations, where he played through pain. Both Jonathan Mensah and Sully Muntari would also enter this tournament with their newfound wisdom. Muntari at the time had actually just come off winning the treble with Inter. Other veterans would follow, like 31-year-old keeper Richard Kingston and 29-year-old box-to-box midfielder Stephen Appiah. Appiah started his senior international career at just age 15 in 1996. But of course, we can't forget about the best African player on the planet, Michael Essien. Never mind. Although nowhere near Essien's ability, 23-year-old Kevin Prince Boateng was called up after changing his allegiances from Germany to Ghana. The team was led by head coach Milovan Rajovac, who took over in 2008. Rajovac was actually set to exclude Sully Muntari due to disciplinary reasons, but the president of the Ghanaian FA actually knelt and begged for Muntari's inclusion. Ghana drew out of pot 3 into a group with Australia, Serbia, and Germany. A late Asamoah Gyan penalty opened the Ghanaians' campaign with a win against Serbia. Next were the Australians, and luckily for the Ghanaians, their star player Tim Cahill was out due to being suspended the previous match. However, the Socceroos drew first blood after Richard Kingston's mistake fell right to Brent Holman. Fortunately for the Black Stars, they were awarded a penalty just a little bit later. Ghana's last match was against the Germans. The Black Stars were actually the better team, but it would be a bug-eyed fella who scored the winner for Germany. Luckily though, thanks to Australia defeating Serbia, Ghana narrowly advanced thanks to goal difference. The round of 16 saw a familiar opponent, the US. And in just 4 minutes, Kevin Prince Boateng scored a fantastic solo goal. The Americans then went on the offensive, but Kingston held strong. However, they eventually found a breakthrough after winning a penalty. Thus, we went to extra time, where yet again, Ghana in the early minutes exploited the US backline through Asamoah Gyan this time. Ghana went on to win and became the third African team to reach the quarterfinals. Next was a match in Soccer City against Uruguay. The Uruguayans themselves were seeing quite the rise as well. After being sent to the Shadow Realm by some kangaroos, Oscar Tabarez completely overhauled the youth system. 4 years later, Uruguay successfully returned to the World Cup with some new faces, the likes of Fernando Muslera, Martin Cáceres, and Diego Godin. There was also Edinson Cavani, a man whose jawline could do all of the US a favor and saw off Florida from the mainland. And finally, there was young Ajax striker Luis Suarez. While all of them showcased their top quality, it would be veteran striker Diego Forlan who put a spell on the Jabulani throughout the 2010 tournament. Both teams actually came very close to opening the score, but it would be Sully Montari from another plane of existence who gave Ghana the advantage. And this was when it felt like the entire continent of Africa exploded in excitement, because Ghana were just 45 minutes away from becoming the first ever African country to make it to the semi-finals of a World Cup. However, though, Forlan again manipulated the air particles and Uruguay equalized. The match then went into extra time and didn't see much action until the 120th minute. With chaos ensuing, Dominic Adia headed a rebound towards goal, which was blocked on the line by Luis Suarez using his hands. While denied a clear goal-scoring opportunity, Ghana still had a chance to win the match at the death with a penalty. Nerves at its most tense, the world watching in quiet anticipation. With one spot kick, Asamoah Gyan could send an African nation to the semi-finals. And he blasts the crossbar. Now let's pause the frame here. I have a confession to make. I was celebrating with Luis Suarez at this moment. And before you start disliking the video, let me explain. After seeing the US team be eliminated, I had the biggest grudge against Ghana. This was bigger than what any high school white kid could ever hold. Having not ever experienced any kind of passion for a sport before, I found myself holding back tears scoring 99 goals against Ghana in the World Cup game. Now, keep in mind, World Cup 2010 was the first time ever watching this sport, and I was also 9 years old. I learned years later after finally lifting up the grudge, but I can't help but laugh at how evil I was as a child. After the penalty miss, immediately came the shootout. And while Asamoah Gyan made no mistake on the second attempt, Uruguay would win on a cheeky Panenka. Absolute heartbreak unfolded for the Ghanaians, with the weight of the moment overwhelming them to the point of gut-wrenching tears. Africa were just this close to seeing one of their own make history. Asamoah Gyan, who missed the initial penalty, said he couldn't sleep the night after because all he could do was cry. And even to this day, he still hasn't gotten over that miss. Now, Uruguayan Suarez, on the other hand,
we do a little trolling. It's called we do a little trolling.
Suarez, having become public enemy number one to not only Ghana, but the entirety of Africa, was absolutely milking the vitriol towards him with quotes like, "The hand of God now belongs to me." This guy would 100% steal a home run ball from a child. That's not even a question. While many around the world painted Suarez as a villain and a cheat, his Uruguayan teammates and fans back home saw him as a hero. Players even actually said that if they were in that same situation, they would have done the same thing if it meant attaining glory for their nation. And head coach Oscar Tabarez said labels like cheat were too harsh. Suarez used his hands on the line, but to be fair, rules are rules. He was sent off, and Ghana earned a penalty, which they didn't convert. But we won't talk about the specifics of each scenario though. Ghana's golden generation came to a close after World Cup 2014, where a draw against eventual champions Germany wasn't enough to see them in the knockouts. They then failed to qualify for World Cup 2018, and 3.5 years later lost to the goddamn Comoros in AFCON 2020. But somehow, against all odds, thanks to some absolute shithousery against their bitter rivals Nigeria, Ghana are back in the World Cup. And with that comes a long-awaited revenge match against the Uruguayans. Many Ghanaians are looking forward to this match because I can assure you they have not forgiven Suarez. In fact, probably the entirety of Africa hasn't. I mean, Suarez said it himself, he doesn't even travel to Africa alone. Whether or not the Uruguayan striker will actually survive past the first minute, we'll see. But I hope you guys enjoyed that story, and I hope you Ghanaians didn't get too much trauma from this. And of course, a massive shout out to all our patrons, including Janos Balash, Sensley Hank Dennis, El Fabi, Milliway 009, Alex Rod, Ulta, Amin Suomez, Araisan, Arnolfo Martinez Jr., Daniel Ortiz, Francisco Hernandez, Juan Leras, Kev FM, Luke Fitzsimmons, Nguyen Mintang, Parafocus, Return Fire, Rory Burns, Subscribe to Tendetem, The Motor Drive, Tomicus, Vanilla Mexican 17, Victor, Carlo SG, Chris Damasceno, David Dunn, Declan Malloy, Emmett Shea, Lewis, Jordan Clavitt, Mohamed Al-Bakhail, MX Weed, Patrick Barley, President Pulisic, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow my Twitter if you'd like, follow my Instagram if you want, follow my TikTok, trying to get to 15,000 there, and of course you can follow my semi-active Twitch. But until then, I'll see you guys.